Hey winners, myself I am P. Sai Krishna, an intern. The topic I have chosen is diabetes mellitus because it is one of the world's leading systemic disease and it is the silent killer. The contents of my topic are introduction of diabetes mellitus, epidemiology of diabetes mellitus, types of diabetes mellitus, glucose metabolism, insulin production and action, pathophysiology of diabetes mellitus, general clinical features of diabetes mellitus, oral manifestations of diabetes mellitus, investigations and diagnostic criteria, management of diabetes mellitus, oral management, and management of medical emergencies associated with diabetes in dental clinic. Diabetes is a lifelong chronic disease and is a group of metabolic disorder characterized by higher levels of glucose in blood, that is hyperglycemia. It is caused due to deficiency of insulin or resistance to insulin or combination of both, that is deficiency as well as resistance. It has become one of the most leading systemic disease throughout the world, that is most oftenly seen in age groups ranging from 20 to 60 years and higher. The epidemiology of diabetes mellitus, 1 in 11 persons throughout the world is suffering from diabetes mellitus. Throughout the world, 422 million adults have diabetes mellitus and 1.5 million deaths occur due to diabetes. I repeat, 1.5 million deaths has occurred due to diabetes. That is why it is considered as silent killer. Coming to epidemiological triad, we have three factors, that are host factors, environment factors, and vector factors. In the host factors, we have it may be due to biology, behavior, or physiological adjustments of the person. Whereas environment factors, it is mainly due to physical, economical, and social factors. Whereas in vectors, it is due to consuming of energy dense foods and drinks and also due to fat containing food. In day life, we consume most of the carbohydrates, so it is important to know glucose and its metabolism. Most of the carbohydrates contain starches which get hydrolyzed in the oral cavity itself. Once the bolus passes through the stomach, it enters the duodenum and jejunum and small intestine, where this carbohydrate absorption and breakdown will occur. The carbohydrates are broken down. Mainly sucrose will be broken down into glucose and fructose. These glucose and fructose the blood vessels, and these blood vessels carry glucose to the liver, where the glucose is converted to glycogen by a process called as glycogenesis, and thus the liver stores glucose in the form of glycogen, and this glucose can also be utilized by the skeletal muscle. So this glucose enters the plasma and is called plasma glucose. This glucose, after entering the skeletal muscle, will converted into pyruvate and alanine. This is a energy forming step, and thus this energy is utilized by the skeletal muscle for its contraction. The alanine will enters into the plasma again and is called as plasma alanine. This plasma alanine will be converted into the pyruvate in the liver, and the pyruvate will be converted into the glucose by a process called gluconeogenesis. To the insulin metabolism, pancreas contains alpha and beta cells. The insulin is secreted from the beta cells of pancreas and glucagon is secreted from the alpha cells. These two hormones regulate glucose levels. Now let's see the factors that increase insulin secretion. Increased blood glucose, increased blood free fatty acids, increased blood amino acids, gastrointestinal hormones like gastrin, cholecystokinin, secretin, and gastrin inhibitory peptide, and growth hormone and cortisol are the other hormones that will act on insulin secretion. Factors that decrease insulin secretion are decreased blood glucose, fasting, alpha adrenergic activity, leptins, parasympathetic stimulation, obesity, and sulfonylurea drug. There are mainly 5 types of diabetes mellitus. Type 1 is insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Type 2 is non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Other variants are gestational diabetes mellitus, secondary diabetes mellitus, and genetic variation. In case of type 1 diabetes mellitus, it is mainly characterized by autoimmune in nature or previously called as juvenile or insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. The clinical comments of it is potential association with other autoimmune disorders or diseases. In case of type 2 diabetes mellitus, it is polygenic and is influenced mainly by the environment. Type 2 has higher incidence with increasing age and with Western cultural habits. In gestational diabetes, it has aggressive clinical progress and it may persist even after the pregnancy. Secondary diabetes mellitus is mainly due to side effects of medications or pancreas dysfunction, example in a person with chronic alcoholism or in a patient who is under steroids. And the causative diseases and medication may also influence this condition. In cases of genetic diabetes mellitus, there is a defect in production or secretion of insulin, or there will be defect in action. The clinical comments of it are potential ocular associated malformations. Before knowing the pathophysiology of the diabetes mellitus, we have to know the normal physiology in the normal person. The insulin hormone is secreted from the beta cells of the pancreas and it is transported through blood and it binds to the insulin binding receptor on the cell surface, and thus the glucose uptake is enhanced into the cell. Thus the utilization of glucose by the cell will be completed. Of type 1 diabetes mellitus or insulin dependent diabetes mellitus due to autoimmune diseases or due to inflammatory conditions caused by viruses, there is decreased insulin secretion or complete reduction of insulin and ultimately leading to reduced or deprived insulin, and no binding of insulin occurs at the receptor site and glucose uptake of the cell is stopped, which lead to increased glucose in blood. Pathophysiology of the type 2 diabetes mellitus or non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus is mainly here the beta cells of the pancreas will produce required amount of insulin and there will be no deficiency of the insulin, but the main problem is the receptor that is present on the cell surface will be resistant to the insulin that is produced and the glucose uptake by the cell is immensely reduced. Thus, there will be increased glucose level in the blood and leading to hyperglycemia. The physiology of gestational diabetes can be considered under 3 trimesters. In the first trimester, there will be normal glucose tolerance. The onset of gestational diabetes starts from second trimester, and in the third trimester, there will be gestational diabetes mellitus and other complications may also be present. After the postpartum delivery, usually recovery is seen, but it may persist in some individuals. Clinical features of diabetes mellitus include diabetic retinopathy, diabetic nephropathy, diabetic neuropathy, microangiopathy, and diabetic gangrene. Periodontitis is added and considered as one of the manifestations of diabetes mellitus. Apart from above features, the other features are polyuria, polydipsia, and polyphagia, 3 P's that are most commonly known clinical features of diabetes mellitus. In this, the patient will complain of polyuria because the patient wakes up multiple times in the night time for urination and he or she will have disturbed sleep. Patient feels immense thirst in polydipsia and hunger in polyphagia. Weight loss, glycosuria and ketonuria, fatigue are other common chief complaints by the patient. And increased glucose and ketone body levels are seen in the urine. Confusion, lethargy, hypotension, arrhythmias are other clinical features, and patient also complains of dehydration and acetone breath, that is malodor, or in medical terms it is called as fetal exodus. Commonly seen oral manifestations of diabetes mellitus or chronic generalized periodontitis. The chronic generalized periodontitis, there will be increased levels of accumulated glycated end products in the periodontium. As the accumulated glycated end products are increased, they lead to formation of collagenases and matrix metalloproteinases and interleukins. As the collagenases, matrix metalloproteinases and interleukins are increased in the periodontium, they ultimately lead to breakdown of the periodontium, that is, collagen breakdown occurs and also alveolar bone resorption occurs and ultimately leading to mobility of the tooth. Multiple periodontal abscess is also a common feature of periodontitis, and angular cheilitis is seen in the patient with diabetes mellitus because of immune suppression, and it is most common candidal infection that can be seen. And rampant caries is also a clinical feature which is mainly due to dry mouth and increased plaque content and also increased glucose content. Most commonly cervical areas of the tooth are affected. In denture stomatitis, it is seen in denture wearers. According to Newton, three types of denture stomatitis are present. Type 1 is pinpoint hyperemia, and type 2 is diffuse, and type 3 is nodular form. Patient may also complain of halitosis or malodor because of increase in ketone body levels and also increase in acetone, which will ultimately lead to sugar-like breath, which is called as breath malodor, or it may be due to underlying systemic condition. The other feature that is seen in the patients with diabetes mellitus is dry mouth. Dry mouth is usually caused because the patient uses medications for diabetes mellitus, and these drugs on chronic usage may cause this dry mouth. Benign migratory glossitis can also be seen in few of the individuals, or it may be seen in some of the cases. Delayed wound healing is seen because there will be impaired collagen formation, and also the chances of infection are high in these patients, which are ultimately lead to delayed wound healing. Diabetic patients are more prone for pseudomembrane candidiasis, that is scrapable white lesion with curdy precipitations are seen in the buccal mucosa and other regions of the oral cavity. It is mainly seen due to immune compromisation of the patient. Oral lichen planus is associated with Greenspan syndrome. In this, the patient is suffered with the diabetes mellitus along with hypertension. Both the diabetes mellitus and hypertension and oral lichen planus will come under Greenspan syndrome. These are the common oral manifestations that are seen in the patient with diabetes mellitus. To the oral manifestations and side effects of the drugs used to treat diabetes mellitus. The influence of drugs in oral cavity is mainly due to prolonged usage of the drugs by the patient in the management of diabetes mellitus. These drugs will lead to lichenoid drug reaction and salivary gland dysfunction. As there is salivary gland dysfunction, there may be low salivary flow, or there may be increased salivary glucose level. As there is decreased saliva, the patient experiences dry mouth condition that is called xerostomia, and due to parotid gland enlargement, it is mainly due to chronic usage of drugs, and it ultimately leads to sialodinosis. As there is reduced salivary flow, patient is more prone for candidiasis. The various forms of candidiasis are angular cheilitis, denture stomatitis, median rhomboid glossitis, pseudomembrane or atrophic form of candidiasis, which is the scrapable white lesion. The pseudomembrane or atrophic candidiasis is most commonly seen lesion. This can be seen on the buccal mucosas and other soft tissues that are present in the oral cavity, which is a scrapable lesion. Curdly precipitates are seen on the buccal mucosa. It is mainly caused due to immune suppression and it is an opportunistic disease that is caused by candida. The patient is more prone for dental caries, and cervical part of caries was most commonly seen. And this topic, as I have explained previously, and fissure tongue is seen in some individuals. Also, the patient may complain of burning tongue sensation. Investigations and diagnosis of diabetes mellitus. This is according to American Diabetic Association plasma glucose, and the diagnostic criteria has to be followed. The diagnosis is done on assessing the fasting blood glucose level for more than 8 hours and also based on oral glucose tolerance test. In a normal person, the fasting blood glucose is less than 110 mg per deciliter, and in oral glucose tolerance test, it is less than 140 mg per deciliter. Whereas in case of impaired glucose tolerance, the fasting blood glucose is less than 126 mg per deciliter, and in the oral glucose tolerance test it ranges from greater than 140 but less than 200 mg per deciliter. In impaired fasting glucose, fasting blood glucose ranges above from 110 and it is less than 126 mg per deciliter, and the oral glucose tolerance test it is less than 200 mg per deciliters. In the diabetes mellitus, it is greater than or equal to 126 mg per deciliter. The diagnostic criteria for diabetes mellitus is mainly based on levels of glucose and hemoglobin A1C levels. To consider it as diabetes mellitus, fasting glucose should be greater or equals to 126 mg per deciliter, or symptoms of hyperglycemia or plasma glucose should be greater or equal to 200 mg percentage, or it should be greater than or equal to 200 mg percentage in oral glucose tolerance test, and the HbA1c levels should be greater than or equal to 6.5 mg percentage. The most importance and significance of HbA1c is it measures your average blood sugar levels of 2 to 3 months, whereas in case of normal level of glucose test only measures glucose level of that particular time, whereas in hemoglobin A1c test we are getting the result of 2 to 3 months. And the main significance is it is not influenced by the diet, exercise and emotional disturbances. It is also useful in diagnosing the stressful hypoglycemia. Management of the diabetes mellitus. As we have discussed previously that types of diabetes mellitus, that are insulin dependent diabetes mellitus and non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus and gestational diabetes mellitus. In that, insulin dependent diabetes mellitus is mainly managed by giving insulin supplements, because in pathogenesis I have said that it is mainly due to autoimmune conditions and viral infections. So, underlying etiology is corrected and insulin supplements are given to this patient, and these insulin preparations are available as very rapid acting, intermediate acting and long acting. Under very rapid acting insulin preparations, we have insulin Lispro, Aspart and Glulicin. These have onset of action at 5 to 15 minutes and they attain peak at 45 to 75 minutes, and the duration of action ranges from 2 to 4 hours. In rapid acting, we use regular insulin. It has onset of action at 30 minutes and it attains peak at 2 to 4 hours, and it has a duration of action ranges from 6 to 12 hours. In intermediate acting, we can use NPH. It attains onset at 2 hours and peak at 4 to 12 hours, and duration of action ranges from 18 to 28 hours. Long acting, we have Detimer and Glargine. They attain onset at 2 hours and peak ranges from 3 to 9 hours, and duration of action ranges from 6 to 24 hours for Detimir and 20 to 24 hours for Glargine. Degludec is an ultra long acting form. Insulin dependent diabetes mellitus is mainly managed by oral hypoglycemics. The oral hypoglycemics are biguanides, sulfonylureas, thiazolidinediones, meglutinides, alpha glucosidase inhibitors, and DPP-4 inhibitors. Among them, sulfonylureas, agglutinides, and DPP-4 inhibitors have common mechanism of action. The common mechanism of action that is shared by these three group of drugs are to increase the insulin secretion. The common biguanide that is used is metformin, and the mechanism of action of metformin is to decrease hepatic gluconeogenesis in the liver. The gluconeogenesis is a process where pyruvate is converted to glucose. As the glucose is formed from other molecules, then it is called as gluconeogenesis. The biguanide will mainly inhibit this gluconeogenesis process. The sulfonylureas are glipizide and glibenclamide. They increase the insulin secretion. Thiazolidinediones are pioglitazone and rosiglitazone. They increase insulin sensitivity to muscle and fat. That is, the muscular cell contains receptor on the surface. These drugs increase the sensitivity at the site of those receptors in muscle and thus enhances the glucose uptake and utilization. So there will be reduced amount of glucose in the blood. The agglutinides are repaglinide and natiglinide. They increase insulin secretion as I have previously mentioned. Alpha glucosidase inhibitors are acarbose and oglibose. They decrease intestinal absorption of the carbohydrates. Whenever a person consumes excessive of carbohydrates, these drugs will mainly act on the intestine and they decrease the absorption of carbohydrates. As the carbohydrate absorption was less, ultimately leading to decreased blood glucose levels. DPP-4 inhibitors are sitagliptin and saxagliptin. They have similar type of action like sulfonylureas and agglutinides. Management of the patient with diabetes mellitus. There are wide range of oral manifestations that are seen in a patient with diabetes mellitus. The patient usually complain of dry mouth, and the other manifestations that are seen in this patient are, as the patient is immune compromised, there are wide oral manifestations that are seen in a patient with diabetes mellitus, that is, he is more prone for candidal infections, angular cheilitis is most oftenly seen, and multiple periodontal abscess, which is a pathognomic sign of diabetes mellitus in the periodontitis. And also periodontitis condition will be seen in association with plaque, and there will be periodontium destruction. And I have already explained that medications will deteriorate the oral conditions in the patient with diabetes mellitus. Anxiety of the patient should be relieved in the dental clinic. Firstly, the glucose levels have to be brought back to the normal physiologic limits by using various pharmacological drugs, and we have to be concerned about the glucose levels, and we have to be discussed with the physician of the patient. And in patients with diabetic mellitus, early morning appointments have to be given and anxiety of the patient should be relieved. The periodontium is mostly compromised in these patients, so it is given utmost importance and proper oral hygiene instructions have to be given, and scaling and root planing procedures are done only after controlling the proper glycemic levels. And about the conditions of the oral cavity and proper oral hygiene instructions have to be mentioned to the patient in a brief. There are chances of medical emergencies like hypoglycemic conditions and also diabetic ketoacidosis, so their management should be done adequately and when required. Of diabetic ketoacidosis, firstly we have to determine the dehydration status of the patient. If it is hypovolemic shock, then we have to administer 0.9% of sodium chloride or plasma volume expander can be given. In case of mild hypertension or in cardiogenic shock, the hemodynamic monitoring has to be done. In mild hypertension condition, evaluate and correction of serum sodium ion has to be done. That is, if serum sodium is high or in a normal range, 0.45% of sodium chloride is administered, and if serum sodium is low, then 0.9% of sodium chloride has to be administered. Here the difference is half NaCl is taken whereas in low cases 0.9% is taken. When serum sodium reaches to 250 mg per deciliters, then change it to 5% dextrose with a NaCl of 0.45%. Insulin is administered through two routes, that is through IV route and also through intramuscular or subcutaneous route. In case of IV route, insulin regular is administered at a dosage of 0.5 units per kg as IV bolus, or in case of subcutaneous or IM route, insulin regular is administered at 0.4 units per kg, half IV bolus and half intramuscular or subcutaneous route. If serum glucose does not fall by 50 to 70 mg per deciliter in the first hour, then we have to double the insulin infusion hourly until glucose fall to 50 to 70 mg per deciliter. This is done through IV route, or we have to go for hourly IV insulin bolus until glucose falls by 50 to 70 mg per deciliter, and the sodium levels ought to be monitored closely along with this. And when the serum sodium is 250 mg per deciliters, then we have to go for change of 5% dextrose with 0.45% of sodium chloride, as I have explained it previously. In the sodium levels, we have to monitor potassium levels also, and also apart from these, we have to assess the need for bicarbonate administration. If pH is less than 6, based on the amount of pH that is present, that is 6.9, or it ranges from 6.9 to 7, and pH of greater than 7. Based on the pH, we have to assess whether to administer bicarbonate or not. If pH is less than 6.9, then administer sodium bicarbonate of 100 millimoles, dilute in 400 ml of H2O and infuse at 200 ml per hour. If pH is ranging from 6.9 to 7.0, administer sodium bicarbonate of 50 millimole and dilute in 200 ml of H2O, infuse at 200 ml per hour, and repeat bicarbonate administer every 2 hours until pH is greater than 7.0. Along with it, monitor serum potassium levels. In day-to-day life, we must be seeing the patient who has diabetes mellitus. So, if the patient has taken increased amount of insulin or decreased consumption of carbohydrate containing diet after insulin uptake, can lead to this condition called hypoglycemia. Also, the anxiety is one of the factors, so close monitoring of patient is required in the clinic. The clinical features that are seen in hypoglycemia are sweating, increased pulse, pallorness of the face, that is ashen grey face of the patient, dizziness, confusion, anxiousness. Patient may feel nausea and also tingliness sensation in the peripheries. Based on these features and history of diabetes mellitus, management has to be done. Any of the condition can be mainly managed by positioning, airway, breathing and circulation, and the definitive treatment is done after the management of positioning, airway, breathing and circulation. And patient should be informed about his or her condition, and anxiety should be reduced, and glucose containing agents or glycemic containing substances like candies, sweets, fruit juices can be given. Also, glucose can be administered, that is 5% of dextrose can be given through the IV route. For watching, and thank you everyone. Please do like and share.